Chapter 6. The mirror shows me an image of a girl with black hair and a smooth face, one that would normally be beautiful if it weren't covered in bruises. I somehow seem to have escaped without a black eye and broken nose, but not by much. I realized during my shower this morning that I had avoided looking into the mirror last night. I decided I should see the damage and was forcing myself to now. It wasn't pretty. The fiery willpower I kindled inside myself last night was gone when I awoke. The sore, aching muscles and slowness of my body sort of stomped it out. The shower helped me forget the pain temporarily, but looking at myself in the mirror, I only feel more tired than ever. Tired of the same thing happening over and over. I hear footsteps clicking behind me, and I turn my head in time to see Molly enter. She looks exhausted like me, but without the bruises. Did she win her duel? I hadn't gotten a chance to talk to any of them yet, but I had just assumed most of them had lost. After all, we were up against nobles who could afford the best training money could buy. I try not to seem surprised as I look silently at Molly, but she smiles, gives a little laugh.
Don't seem so surprised. I lost too,
she says, walking up to the mirror beside me, her hands clutched around a little black case.
Sorry,
I say, my cheeks heating up a little as I turn back to the mirror.
Your face didn't look rainbowish like mine, so I was just a little confused. You don't look that bad, she says, smiling. Besides, the only reason I don't look as bad as you is because I was up against Seth. Talk about a quick fight. That's not even fair,
I say, wincing. By the way he held himself, Seth gave me the impression of someone with military influence. I imagine his combat training to be close to equal with the nobles.
Oh, it wasn't that bad,
Molly says quickly.
He kicked my leg out at the start of the match, and I couldn't get up, so he just put his foot on my neck and held it there. Sadon told him to knock me out, but Seth said I couldn't fight anymore, so he had won. It didn't hurt that much, and Seth said sorry at least 20 times. And that was before we fought.
Really? I ask, glancing at her in the mirror.
He seems kind of cold to me. He did to me too at first,
she says with a shrug.
But I guess that's just the standard Noxian tough guy act. He just does that to keep his reputation, I think.
I give her a weak smile, keeping my gaze fixed on myself in the mirror. I'm unsure of how to take the information. Molly seems to think Seth is kind, but I'm not so sure. He may have just felt guilty about beating up someone so much weaker than him, so he ended it quickly for his own sake. Something about Seth just makes me feel uneasy, but I can't put my finger on it. I hear a clicking sound from next to me, and I look to see Molly has set the case she was holding on the counter and opened it up. Inside are a dozen or so little containers and brushes. I give her a questioning look, and she holds one of them up with a smile.
Makeup,
she says, as if that is all the explanation needed. I stare at her blankly.
Oh,
she says, blinking.
Sorry, I should have realized that Ionians don't really use this. It's what people put on to make themselves look better, you know, like at parties and stuff.
Right, I say, feeling slightly dense.
I've heard about it at school, but I've just never actually used it. Well, how about we change that?
She says with a smile.
This should be able to cover up your bruises. You put it on with those brushes, right?
I ask quickly, and she nods.
I'll put it on for you, if you want. Just stand still, and no one will ever know you were in a fight yesterday.
She says, holding up one of the brushes with an eager smile.
Oh, and close your eyes too. Then it'll be a surprise.
I hesitate for a second. I guess it couldn't really hurt, and I'm a little curious about how this makeup stuff works. I give Molly a little nod, and face her, closing my eyes. Maybe extending a little trust to her wouldn't be so bad anyway. I could use a little help. I feel the tingle of the brushes working their way over my face, and I do my best not to twitch. I didn't realize it would tickle so much, but I do my best to stand still as Molly works. Every once in a while she lets out a little giggle, and I hear the sound of a case opening, making me feel a little suspicious. A few minutes pass, and I wonder why it's taking so long. Well, it could just always takes this long. I guess I wouldn't really know.
Before you open your eyes,
Molly says, her sudden words surprising me.
There's something you need to know about me.
She seems to hesitate a few seconds, and I feel the suspicion grow. Maybe this wasn't the best idea after all.
I'm not a good fighter. Seth's quick win against me proves that, and you already know that I'm not great with magic either. However, I do have one skill that surpasses everyone else's here. One ability that no one else can rival. Open your eyes.
I open them, looking at my reflection. I blink at the odd figure I see, but the reflection doesn't change. I stare at myself in stunned silence for a few seconds, processing my transformation. Saying the bruises are gone would be an understatement, as my entire face has changed. My normally big eyes seem to have a darker blue color to them, making them look deeper and more noticeable. The pale skin of my face is accented by a slight red blush on my cheeks, and somehow my face looks more smooth and softer. The normal, plain face I'm used to seeing now looks beautiful and elegant, something I didn't think was possible. I had no idea makeup could change someone's looks so drastically. I mean, for once in my life, I actually think I look good. Like, really good.
Stunning, right?
Molly says proudly from next to me.
I mean, more stunning. You already look beautiful, so I mostly just covered your bruises, put on a little blush, shadowed your eyes a little, and a few other. Wait, you do like it, right? Of course I do.
I say, still somewhat shocked at my transformation.
I mean... Wow. It looks so natural. Thanks,
Molly says shyly, her cheeks taking on a natural blush.
Placement over amount is the general idea. You have really pale skin, so I had to make sure to use as little makeup as possible and just use it really well. I figure you probably didn't want to look too noticeable, so I went for making people who did look at you speechless. Noxians usually go for a more eye-catching style, but I personally think quality over quantity is better. Seriously Molly, thank you,
I say, turning to her.
This really looks amazing. I owe you one.
The words leave my mouth before I can stop myself, and my breath catches. Most Noxian wouldn't pass up a chance like this to make someone their pawn. If Molly truly has good intentions, she'll pass up my words. If not, I may have just made a big mistake. The kind that could ruin my new start.
If you give Elizabeth a good look during lunch, I'll consider us even, she says with a sniff. I mean, come on, have you seen her today? It looks like she just rolled her face on the makeup and hoped it would turn out well.
I laugh, and Molly smiles back at me. I feel bad about my thoughts about her before. I still don't necessarily trust her, but I definitely want to become friends with her if at all possible. She doesn't deserve to be alone here, and it's the least I can do. She didn't just help me not look like a victim, but she also made me feel pretty. I never realized how good that feels. Living with two brothers and always wearing the same uniform sort of suppressed my girliness, I guess.
Did you put some on yourself?
I ask, squinting at her.
If you did a nice job. I can't see any bruises or anything. No,
she says, blushing and fidgeting more.
I mean, no more than usual. I had to put a little on my knee where Seth kicked me. If you look closely you can tell. You should just get some leggings like mine,
I say, gesturing at the black ones I'm wearing.
They match well with... well, our whole uniform, really. That might be a good idea,
Molly says, nodding.
Not to mention it would help with the whole length issue too. Like, who thought it was a good idea to make skirts this short?
She stops for a second and gives me a suspicious look.
Wait, is that why you always wear leggings? The whole Ionian modesty and humbleness thing I've heard so much about. I don't always wear them,
I insist defensively to a skeptical-looking Molly.
Just whenever I have to wear this uniform. It just so happens I have to wear it a lot. Fair enough,
Molly says with a smirk.
You'll have to show me a good clothes store here. I mean, that is, if you aren't too busy today. I know you probably have people you want to visit and all that. No, it's fine,
I say, smiling at her.
How about we meet up at 1 in the afternoon, near the marketplace? I'll be done visiting by then and I can show you around. I'd like that,
Molly says, smiling brightly. I know I don't really have time to be acting all girly with her, and it's not a good idea to be getting so close to someone who I'm competing against, but I honestly don't care. It feels good, and right now, that's all that matters. We walk out of the bathroom together, smiling. As we step out, Molly lets out a little squeaking sound, and her eyes go big. I look down the hallway to the right and see Captain Fairfax standing there in his imposing crimson armor. I can see why Molly would be surprised. He seems intimidating and dangerous with just standing there. It probably doesn't help that he has his sword with him.
Arya, a moment please,
he says. It's not a request. Molly gives me a worried look, but I just smile and nod at her. She nods back and hurries off to the lunchroom. I walk over to Fairfax slowly, and I notice his eyes watching Molly as she goes, flicking back to me when I arrive.
Do you trust that girl?
He asks plainly.
I don't trust anyone. I just thought having a friend might not be so bad.
I answer. I'm used to Fairfax asking weird questions, but it always gives me goosebumps how he seems to know exactly what's going on.
Dangerous. That might be good for you though. Anyway, we need to discuss some things. You haven't told anyone why you're actually here, have you? No,
I answer in a whisper, getting a little frustrated.
I figured telling them that their government was killing Ionian students by sending them to battle mage training and that this was my escape plan wasn't a great idea. Good,
he answers, seemingly oblivious to my anger.
I was told to make sure you told no one. I was also told to give you something.
He pulls a small metal band out of his pocket and holds it out to me. It seems like it's meant to be a bracelet of some kind. It seems plain enough, which makes me suspicious. I pass my senses over it and feel a slight current of magic winding its way through the metal.
What is that?
I ask, looking up into his eyes.
Locating bracelet,
he answers.
This will allow us to track your movements throughout the city. It's meant to keep you from trying to escape. The only one who can remove it is the one with the unique magical sequence. You must wear this at all times today until you arrive back at the academy. Visit the infirmary when you need it removed. Understand?
My heart thumps quietly in my chest. I should have realized that I wouldn't be able to walk around the city freely. I guess this was better than having to worry about someone following me around and watching my movements though. I do another quick check with my senses, making sure there's only enough energy in the band to track me. It seems like he's telling the truth, so I take the band from him and put it on my left wrist. The straight piece of metal coils around my skin like a snake, latching on firmly, and I shudder.
Is that all?
I ask quietly. I don't know why the bracelet upsets me so much. It's just a stupid piece of metal.
Make sure not to tell anyone what your training here involves,
he says.
Including your family.
I nod at him and begin walking away, towards the lunchroom. The very thought of lying to them makes me feel uneasy, but it's not like I have much of a choice. Maybe I can just avoid having to lie somehow. I'll figure it out. I stop just before I turn the corner and look back at Fairfax, hesitating briefly as I remember our conversation last night.
I figured it out, you know,
I say, raising my eyes to meet his.
The reason I'm here, I mean.
He says, silvery blue eyes staring back.
I didn't think the makeup was all that changed about you.
I smile weakly at his words. Then I turn away and walk towards the lunchroom. Talking to Fairfax always leaves me in a melancholy mood afterwards. I try to shake it off, but the more I try, the deeper it gets. I give up after a few seconds and focus on walking. Maybe seeing Elizabeth's reaction to me will cheer me up. That, or breakfast. Never underestimate the power of food. Even with the sky being overcast, the weather is warmer today. The houses and shops around me are all familiar now, and it feels oddly nerve-wracking. It's not like I've been gone for an exceptionally long time or anything. Nevertheless, my neighborhood leaves me feeling more and more shaken with each and every familiar sight I see. I hope I don't bump into any of my classmates. Most of them live closer to the school, so I should be fine. The familiar people of my neighborhood look at me with expressions filled with a mixture of sorrow and fear. The much more extravagant uniform has somehow changed me, and I get a wide path along the street where I walk. It doesn't bother me too much. It feels more nostalgic than anything else, but I can handle nostalgic. I don't mind the looks of fear. They sting less than pity. I end up getting to my house swifter than I thought I would. It's bigger than the other Ionian houses next to it, mostly due to the fact that the smithy is directly attached to the house and shop area. Other than that though, the architecture is mostly the same. The only thing that looks slightly out of place is the brick chimney that ventilates the forge. My hands start to tremble as I walk up to the door, and I take a deep breath to steady myself, resting my fingertips on the doorknob. This shouldn't be this hard. If I explain it to Akira and Zane, they'll understand. Mom does, so there's no reason why they wouldn't. I close my fingers around the doorknob and turn, pushing the door open and stepping into my house. The room looks exactly as I remember. Weapons hang from the walls around me and a row of display cases are pushed up against the sides of the walls, giving a good view of the arsenal we've created over the years. A vacant counter lies in the back of the room with a traditional sliding door behind it. I close the door behind me softly, but the door creaks loudly as it closes shut. We had made it do that on purpose so we would always know whenever someone entered the shop.
"I'll be with you in a moment,"
a clear voice calls out from further inside the house.
"Feel free to take a look around."
My throat feels suddenly dry, and I take a few stuttering steps forward to the middle of the room. I try to shout something out, but no words feel right, so I stay silent. My heart pounds in my chest as the seconds pass. I find myself scratching my arms red, and I force myself to stop and clasp my hands together in front of me. Maybe I should just call out. Just before I can open my mouth, the door slides open, and Akira steps out, wearing simple grey clothes and a smudged blacksmith's apron. He freezes the second he sees me, and we stare at each other. His mouth is slightly open, like he was about to say something. I force myself to look into his eyes. My worries melt away. The only thing I see in them as they begin to shine with water is relief. He understands. I knew he would.
"I'm home,"
I whisper, my eyes watering up as I look at him. He takes a few swift steps towards me, and I meet him halfway, wrapping my arms around him as tight as I can. In comparison, he hugs me gently, his hands resting on my shoulders like I'm made of glass. Akira always gives me the gentlest of hugs, no matter what mood he may be in. After all, he's my brother. I slowly pull away from the embrace after a few seconds, taking a step back and looking up at his face. He has a wide smile on, and he rubs at his eyes with his sleeves.
"Don't mind me,"
he says.
"I was just cooking onions. Hence the tears." "That must be it,"
I say, smiling as I gently wipe at my own eyes gently.
"But I never knew you cooked in a blacksmithing apron." "Well, how could I not?"
he asks, giving a confused look.
"It's just so fashionable."
I laugh lightly, and he smiles back.
"You look good. Like, really good,"
he says, squinting at me.
"Is that makeup?" "It's sort of a long story,"
I say hesitantly, remembering Fairfax's words. His eyes search mine, working through the half-lie. "Akira's smart. Like, crazy smart. I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to figure out the truth if he really wanted to. I've seen him make crazier deductions with less information. I just wonder what happens when he does figure it out."
"You aren't supposed to talk about it, are you?"
he asks, the humor fading from his voice.
"But you got hurt, and it was a part of the training, wasn't it?" "How'd you figure it out?"
I ask, still looking away.
"Because I know you,"
he says, brushing some brown hair out of his eyes.
"You aren't obsessed with vanity, so the makeup must be to hide something. You were just at an academy run by Noxus, so it would only make sense that you were hurt during their training. I'm guessing it wasn't an accident though, was it?"
Just like I thought. There's no point in denying his accusation.
"No. It wasn't,"
I answer.
"But I'm working on it. I really can't talk about it."
I keep my eyes searching the shop, away from Akira. The silence stretches on, and I do nothing to stop it. He's just going to need to drop it. I'll lie to him if it means keeping him safe.
"That's fine,"
he whispers, and my eyes snap up to his at the emotion in his voice. His hazel eyes seem darker, and his body is tensed up.
"But I have another question. Arya, at the aptitude test. Why didn't you try to hide your talents?"
The question takes me by surprise. I thought seeing my family again would be relaxing, even if I did have to explain some things, but the seriousness behind Akira's voice sets my nerves on edge. It's not like Akira to sound so stressed. I force myself not to answer defensively, something I'm not used to having to do around my family.
"Because I didn't think I would be able to,"
I answer, looking quizzically back at him.
"And because if I tried, I wouldn't have been able to go to the academy." "You wanted to go there?"
he asks, surprised.
"No, I don't mean it like that,"
I stutter, looking for the right words.
"Well then what?"
he pushes, more emotion breaking into his voice.
"What made you think leaving your family was going to keep you safe?" "What?"
I manage to choke out, my eyes widening.
"You make it sound like I wanted to go there. Like I had a choice." "Didn't you?"
he asks plainly.
"Hide your talents or go to the academy. Those were your choices." You're forgetting that if I failed to hide my talents I would have gone to battle mage training,
I say angrily, trying to control the rage brewing inside of me. His words sound accusing, but the emotion behind them is more sad than anything else. So why is he saying these things?
Wouldn't that have happened anyway if you failed to pass the test?
He points out.
And if you thought you could pass the test, then why didn't you think you could also hide your talents? Why did you choose them over us? Because I was scared.
I shout, and silence spreads throughout the room. I force myself to take a second and calm down, taking a few deep breaths and choosing my next words carefully.
They had me, again, and I was tired of them choosing my path. If I hid my talents, then I would just be putting myself back in the cycle all over again, and I'm tired of bad things happening to me. I chose to try for the academy, because that way, if bad things still keep happening to me, at least I'll get the power to protect other people, Akira. That's something I thought you would understand. I do understand,
he says, his voice subdued.
Then why the questions?
I ask exasperated.
Because what I don't understand,
he says, his voice gaining strength,
is why you thought you were alone.
I raise an eyebrow.
Maybe it's because I was? You and Zane never said anything to me about the test, ever. You never tried to explain it to me, or warn me, or anything. Maybe, it's because we couldn't,
he says, the words whispering out through gritted teeth.
They made us sign a contract. A magic one. Why do you think no one speaks about the test, or tries to warn others? The contract forbids us with talking to people who haven't taken the test.
I flinch back at his words, my eyes widening. I never considered that. It made sense, so why didn't I think of that before? Why didn't I ever ask them about it, for that matter? They could have hinted about the contract if I directly asked, so why? Did I actually want to be alone? And why didn't I have to sign such a contract?
I just thought.
I trail off, my mind reeling at the revelation. It's not that my brothers wouldn't warn me about the test, it's that they physically couldn't. They probably wanted to explain it to me this whole time. I can only imagine the torture they went through, seeing me walk by every day, knowing that the test was getting closer and closer.
Arya,
he says gently, reaching a hand out to my shoulder.
You're not alone. Zane and I are always here, even when it doesn't seem like it. I know that we haven't been the best at showing you that, but it's true. Even when we don't show it, we'll always do our best to protect you. Always. Okay.
I nod back, feeling embarrassed and angry at myself.
I'm sorry. I should have known you weren't abandoning me. There's nothing to be sorry about,
he says, pulling back his hand.
I just wish you would trust us more. I mean, Zane and I were ready to rescue you from the school with force if they were sending you to the battle mage camp. How did you know I wasn't going there?
I ask, clearing my throat and trying to shift the topic away.
Because Fairfax was with you,
he answers with a shrug.
He promised us he'd escort you out if you were going to the academy and not the camp. Zane still wanted to rescue you anyway, but I managed to talk him out of it. You made your decision, and I thought you probably wanted to stick with it. Besides, the 6 battle mages with you helped me convince him a little too. Fairfax?
I whisper. He had been helping me before I even knew it. Why? Helping me get to the academy was one thing, but helping plan an escape with my family was way too much for repaying a simple debt. Why was he helping me so much? I shake my head slightly, clearing my thoughts. I can worry about that later. Maybe I can get some answers from him at our training session tonight. Until then, I should find out all the facts.
What else did Fairfax tell you?
I asked curiously.
Not much. He only visited once to help plan your escape. He also said he'd help get you to the academy if that's what you wanted. Other than that though, nothing. Why didn't you tell me Fairfax was going to help me if you knew in advance?
I ask. The contract wouldn't have been able to stop them from telling me at least that much. He hesitates a little before answering.
Mom told us not to. She said you should make your choice unbiased so you could figure out what you really wanted. She told us that it was the only way to truly protect you. Oh.
I say, trying to hide the emotions swirling inside of me. Mom told them not to? Her reasoning makes sense, but she also had to know what would happen to me if I went to the academy. She had to know I would be fighting for my life, so why? Because she knew that forcing me to choose one way or another would have been like putting me in a cage. The realization hits me, and the everything begins making sense. I would have been safe but trapped, kept locked away for my own good. I would have hated every second of it, and she would have known that. She's my mom, after all. It must have been hard on her, knowing the pain I would be facing just to reach my dream, but she did it anyway. She stopped herself from acting on her feelings so I could be free. I'm going to give her the biggest hug when I see her. Speaking of which.
Where is Mom, anyway?
I ask, looking expectantly at the door behind him.
Or Zane for that matter.
A content little smile had settled on his face while I stood in thought, but my question makes it fade away almost instantly. I see the color drain from his face, and he looks away from me. I've never seen Akira's emotions change so quickly before, and I feel fear settle into my chest.
Akira,
I say, my voice coming out no louder than a whisper.
What happened? Zane didn't want you to worry, but I'm not going to lie about it. Mom had another episode.
He says, somehow managing a calm voice. My mind begins racing anyway. If she fainted again, it only meant her disease was getting worse. Her sacrifice for me was beginning to take its toll. I hold up a hand as Akira begins to say something, and he stops, letting me think. Mom was getting worse. Why though? What part of her sickness would be making it get worse? Part of the reason I'm so concerned is because Mom's sickness was somewhat my fault. She always insisted that there was only one thing to blame, the void. The void is a place between dimensions, a place where horrific creatures live. Every once in a while, one of those creatures is able to make it through into Runeterra. They are called Voidborn, terrifying monsters who are bent on destroying everything and anything that exists. Mom and Dad were part of an order that kept watch and hunted down these creatures. That's actually how they met and how she got sick. After they got married, they decided to end their lifestyle of hunting monsters and moved to a small village. Cultists who worshipped the Voidborn saw it as the perfect moment to get vengeance. They attacked when my mother was pregnant with me and managed to hurt her with void magic. Void magic destroys everything it touches, and it seeped into her blood, threatening to kill me before I was even born. My mother, worried more about my life more than her own, found a skilled wizard who was able to use ancient magics and save me. The exchange was that it used some of my mom's life force, permanently weakening her. Now she can barely lift a hammer and often gets sick as a side effect. Over the years, she's slowly been getting worse. It was only recently that she began losing consciousness at random moments though. I got off relatively easy. I only had to take some weird medicine every once in a while if I felt weird. It always made me feel guilty even though she made sure to assure me it wasn't my fault. She was good like that. It didn't help me feel any better though. If Mom hadn't been pregnant with me, she could have fought off the cultists easily. Even if she still got injured, she would have recovered easily if not for me. She could have had a normal life.
Is she okay?
I ask, trying to refocus back on the present. Maybe it doesn't matter whose fault it was. What matters is helping her get better. I might be able to do that now that I'm not learning magic all on my own. I bet the Academy has tons of books on the subject too, and even if it doesn't, I might be able to do something for her when I become a summoner.
She's fine,
Akira says reassuringly.
But Zane and I decided to send her somewhere where she could heal. Somewhere safe. So we sent her to Piltover. They have the lead in technology and magic there. If they can't treat her, no one can.
I stare up at him, dumbfounded. Piltover was on the mainland, and no one left the Noxus-controlled zones of Ionia without special permission. Noxus wasn't too keen on letting Ionians out to share their story with the rest of the world. Getting out of occupied Ionia was no small task, and the only people who could do it were the ones who would want something in return. Something big.
Akira,
I whisper, fear settling into me.
What did you do? We had to make deals,
Akira says, looking away from me.
They had access to a teleport location, so I told them I'd work for them in exchange for getting Mom off the island. Told who?
I ask, worry creeping its way into my voice. Something in his voice sets off the alarm bells in my head.
Akira, you're scaring me. The Rune Guard. The same people who Mom worked for.
He answers flatly, and a feeling of numbness spreads through me. I stare at him, trying to figure out what he's done, but he keeps his face turned away from me. It takes me a few seconds to work through my sluggish thoughts.
I thought you wanted to.
I begin, but then my mind begins to catch up. I was going to say become a guard. But now I realize that was never his dream. It was his fallback choice. Mom had always regretted her decision of joining the Rune Guard because they weren't there to protect her. Akira used to always talk about joining them too, but over the years, he slowly switched to just talking about becoming a guard. He must have not wanted to disappoint her. With Mom getting worse though, it must have made joining the Rune Guard an easy decision for him. No one else had found a cure, so it was up to him now. He didn't think Zane and I could do it, even with me now going to an academy. Akira had found a way to make the choice with no regrets. He was going to be able to follow his dream and justify his choice by saying it was to protect Mom. He was going to leave Ionia and be free from Noxian rule. He had found a way out, away from all this. Away from me.
Oh.
I managed to say, choking on the realization.
Oh. I'm sorry,
Akira says, looking back towards me.
Just like you, I want to protect people. I was never convinced being a guard could work. You were most of the reason I believed that, but now that you're... How could you?
I interrupt, each pounding heartbeat sending a flash of pain through me.
How could you lecture me about trusting you guys when you're abandoning me? When you don't even believe in me? What do you mean?
He asks, sounding offended.
Of course I believe in you. Then why didn't you wait?
I yell, my vision becoming blurry with tears.
When I become a summoner, I could easily have gotten us out of here. I could have helped her now that I'm actually getting training. There was no reason to get her out now. Arya, you can't honestly believe that,
he says, looking at me, his eyes pleading while his voice remains steady.
She's getting worse, and we don't even know when your training would start helping. It could have been too late by then. That's not true,
I whisper.
She would have made it. The truth is you didn't believe in me. You didn't think I would make it through this. You didn't think I could become a summoner and help her. I couldn't take the risk that it wouldn't be in time,
he insists, but his words sound feeble to me.
Besides, it's to join the Rune Guard. It's a good cause. That's part of the problem, Akira.
I shout, and I feel tears falling down my cheeks.
You promised that we would stick together. How are you supposed to protect Zane and I if a monster rips you apart? What happens then, hey? When you're hurt and alone, and we aren't there to help you. They just want me as a scout,
he responds quietly.
The plan is for me to find Voidborn, while others will do the actual hunting. Yes, because we all know how well plans work out, don't we?
I retort, and he winces.
You wanted to know why I don't trust anyone anymore? Well, here's your answer. Every time I try, this happens.
The tears stream down my face, and Akira stares at me like a statue, his eyes distant. How can he not understand what he's done?
How often do you think they'll let you come home?
I ask.
At least, my choice let me come back to visit. I'll be able to come back between missions. Arya, it really isn't as bad as you're making it out to be.
My heart pounds in my chest, and I take a few stuttering breaths in and out, trying in vain to calm myself. If he really can come back between missions, and he doesn't have to leave for a while, we might be able to help him.
When are you leaving?
I ask quietly, trying my best to talk through the tears.
At least tell me you'll be here until my training's done.
He winces, and I feel my final hope slip away even before he opens his mouth.
They want me to leave tomorrow. I'm sorry, Arya.
I stare at him, my face hot and damp with tears. My throat and lungs feel like they're being squeezed, making it hard to breathe. How could he do this? Just pack up and leave of his own free will? I barely had a choice, if you can even call it that, and he tells me I should have trusted him. All the while, he's made the decision to abandon me because he wants to. Everything comes to a stop. He wants to leave me. Something inside of me disappears at that thought. I can't take it anymore. If I listen to any more of his words, of his excuses, the hole will only become bigger.
I should go,
I say, the words sounding lost and far away. I turn and walk away, my steps uneven but quick.
Arya, wait,
I hear him call out from behind me. I hear some quick footsteps, and Akira steps in front of me, forcing me to stop.
You don't have to leave. Please, just sit down. We can talk through this.
I just stare at him, searching his face for something. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I don't find it. His pleading face doesn't even look familiar to me. I jerk my head left and right, not trusting my words. He stiffens at my motion and bites his lip, looking away.
Alright,
he says hoarsely.
Just take this. In case you ever need to find Zane or me.
He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a silver necklace in the shape of a cross with a circle around it. A small blue gem rests in the center, giving an extra sort of depth to the simple design. Zane, Akira, and I all have similar necklaces, the only difference being the color of the stone in the middle. I take the necklace from him gently, looking at it in my hand. I left this on my bed the day of the test. I don't know exactly why, but it just felt weird wearing it. I don't know if I even believe in anything anymore, so why would I wear a religious necklace? Besides, it was only another thing Noxians could use against me. It reminded me too much of my family to not have any sentimental value. The best option was for me to just stop wearing it. It means nothing to me now. It just makes me feel empty, just like the person who gave me it. I look back up at Akira, and he takes a step to the side, his eyes on the ground. I walk past him, stepping into the street. I keep my head low, the necklace still clenched in my hand, and just start walking. Anywhere will do, I really don't care. No one walks by me anyway, so it's not like I have to worry about bumping into someone. The thought suddenly strikes me that I may have just seen Akira for the last time in my life. What if that's the last conversation I ever have with him? I veer off the street into an alley and lean my head against the wall, muffling the sound of my sobbing with my sleeve. Crying won't solve any of my problems, but it can't make them any worse either. So I cry, letting my thoughts rush over me. He was leaving us. I know he thinks it's the only way to help Mom, but it's not, it can't be. We've already lost so much, and now he was splitting off from us. Doesn't he understand how much that hurts? His choice tears into me with every breath, and I don't know what to do. If I can't even trust my family to stick together, to keep their promises, then what can I trust? Silence is the only thing that answers my thoughts. The tears don't stop until I'm gasping for breath and nauseous from the bone-racking sobs. I slowly push myself from the wall, forcing myself to take deep breaths to calm myself. I need a plan, something that I can follow. I should start with finding Zane. I don't know what I expect to happen when I do, but I just need to do it. I didn't get to hear how he was doing from Akira, and I need to know if he's alright. Maybe if I find Zane, we can convince Akira not to leave. I nod my head, feeling drained but focused. First, I need to find out where he is. That shouldn't be too much of a problem if I use my necklace in a quick spell. I hold out the necklace in front of me, closing my eyes and focusing on it. Before I joined the academy, I wouldn't have dreamed of using magic out in public except in the most dire of situations. Now that they know the truth, I don't have to worry about it. I pull together the spell in my head fairly quickly. It's a simple tracking spell I learned that links two familiar objects together to give a mental image of where they're located. In this case, I'm using my necklace to find out where Zane's is. I imagine the map of the city in my head, making sure I have the general detail correct, and then I release the energy, activating the spell. 3 glowing dots appear in my imagination. One is at our house, which must be Akira. The second is on the streets, not very far away from the first. That must be me, so I look at the last one, which appears to be in an alley near the main marketplace. I give myself a few seconds to commit the location to memory before I release the spell and open my eyes. I take a step to leave, when I remember my makeup. It's probably a mess by now because of all the crying. If I approached Zane without fixing it, he would freak out. Washing it off would be the easiest solution, but maybe I should at least try to salvage it first. I flick my fingers at the wall, and with a small effort of will, a few of the bricks turn reflective, allowing me to see my face. It takes me a few seconds to realize that besides my bloodshot eyes and red face, the makeup hasn't smeared at all. I frown at the reflection and wipe at my face, but the makeup still doesn't smear. Hey. I didn't even know makeup that didn't smear existed. I'll have to ask Molly about that. I release the spell and head off towards the marketplace. I stick to the main roads even though I know most of back streets. Noxian students like to hang out in the alleys, and I don't have time or patience for misunderstandings. The streets get more crowded the closer I get, but I blend in with the crowd easily. Most people here don't recognize me, and as long as they don't look too close at the uniform, I'm just another student going shopping. Most of them probably wouldn't know what the more intricate design meant anyway, except that I was more important. I smirk. Yeah, more important. That's one way of putting it. By the time I find the series of alleyways I'm looking for, I'm already close enough to hear vendors hawking their wares and the chatter of the crowd. I start to get a weird feeling as I walk down the alley, listening to the ambient noise. The alleyway I'm in connects to a series of other backstreets and makeshift paths. Combine that with the noise, and it's a perfect meeting place for someone who might want to get out quickly and be unnoticed at the same time. And if Zane's nearby. As I'm about to round a corner, I catch the sound of voices whispering, and I stop myself. I edge to the wall and peek around the corner. Two figures stand at the end of the alley, one with a dark cloak covering him from head to toe, and the other. I let out an involuntary gasp as the other figure turns slightly, giving me a look at his profile. Tall, big muscles, short black hair, and green glittering eyes only point to the obvious. Zane. He wears commoner clothes, with a dark cloak around his shoulders. I want to run to him, but I force myself to stay still when I see the serious look on his face. The last time I saw that look on his face, things didn't end well. I see the stranger in the cloak shift slightly, and I finally pick out his voice among the clamor of the marketplace.
You're sure they are exact?
I hear a garbled voice ask, and I shudder at the sound. It sounds like some sort of magic is constantly changing his voice, making it undulate through random tones.
I followed the specifications I was given,
my brother answers, no hint of discomfort in his voice.
Good. You have proved to be very valuable to us. I know what you said you wanted your payment to be, but I am still working on convincing the others. I believe I can make it happen though. With your continued help, of course. Whatever. When am I going to learn the details?
Zane asks, folding his arms.
When I get approval to incorporate your unique skills. Just keep the item I gave you at all times. It will allow me to contact you when the time is right.
The shadowy figure says, taking a look down the alley, forcing me to slide back behind the wall.
Make sure you go no further than the specifications you gave me,
I hear Zane say.
You'll get caught otherwise. I'm sure you will find that we are very thorough. I must be going now. Wouldn't want to linger too long, would we?
I hear loud steps walk away from me, and when they fade to the distance, I decide to make my move. I turn the corner, walking up to Zane. He doesn't notice me at first, and just stands completely still, like he's focused on something. He shakes his head, and turns just as I reach him. His eyes widen, and I force myself to smile at him, even if that's not how I feel.
Hey Zie,
I begin, only to have him wrap his arms around me, crushing me in a bear hug. I stiffen but force myself to ignore my discomfort and hug him back.
Thank God you're alright,
he says, slowly releasing his hug, a huge smile on his face.
Wow, you look good. I guess Akira was right about that academy after all.
I offer another feeble smile and take a step back from him, awkwardly scratching at my arm.
You make it sound like I was gone forever,
I say lightly.
A lot can happen in a few days,
Zane says, still looking me over.
It's good to see that you're doing well. I knew you would though. I mean, finally, those Noxian brats are up against your specialty. It's about time you got a chance to show them what you're capable of. They don't have you doing any training magic that's too dangerous though, do they?
I bite my lip, thinking the answer over. Akira was able to figure out everything just by taking a look at me, but he's a special case. Still, I feel a stab of pain in my heart that my brother misunderstood the circumstances so badly. Not only that, but how am I supposed to tell him what's really going on? The knife sticking in my heart only grows sharper as I consider lying to him.
Sorry, they probably told you not to tell anyone, didn't they?
He asks.
That's okay though. I'm sure it's nothing you can't handle.
Another stab of pain.
Sorry to change topics so suddenly,
I lie, some desperation leaking into my voice.
But we need to talk about what's going on. Look,
he says with a sigh.
As far as I'm concerned, choosing the academy was a great choice. Sure, you may not be able to see us that often, but now you're truly safe. They're having you practice to become a summoner, so I'm sure they wouldn't even think of hurting you. Not only that, but you're also getting even more powerful. I see why you did it, and honestly, I think it was easily the best decision.
The knife twists around, and the pain almost becoming physical for me.
Not about the academy,
I manage to gasp out between clenched teeth.
About Mom and Akira.
He thumps a fist lightly against his leg, letting out an annoyed sigh and shaking his head.
I told him not to say anything. We have it under control. Akira may be going away, but it was the best option to get mom out safely. My idea had too much risk, and Akira wanted to join the Rune Guard anyway, so it worked out. I tried to tell him you could help her, but he insisted that mom was only getting worse the longer we waited. What really convinced me was when he told me to look out for you. I think I promised him at least 7 times that I would.
The tears threatened to come back, but I must have cried them all out before, because they never arrive.
You really think that this is the best way?
I ask, biting my lip softly.
I don't like it,
he says, with a frown.
In fact, I almost hit him when I learned he was abandoning us, but he made me see his side of it. It's for a good reason, and it guarantees mom's safety. Besides, he made the deal before he even told me about it, so there's not much I could do.
I nod at him, somewhat relieved to not be the only one feeling betrayed. The three of us promised to stick together until we could all get out, and we had renewed that promise just a few months ago. I know Akira means well, but the pain from his decision doesn't feel that way. He always seems to have a plan, thinking of the big picture, and I hope this decision is no different.
I think he just felt like he was useless here,
my brother says quietly.
You know. He only ever dueled against students when I was too injured, and you have the whole magic thing going on. I bet he feels like a third sword, just one too many to be useful. The whole not actually being related probably doesn't help either. I never thought of it like that,
I admit, going over his words. It makes sense, which only makes me angrier. I can't count the number of times I've told him being directly related doesn't matter, and his ridiculous intelligence speaks for itself. So what makes him think that? What's changed? The only answer that comes to my mind isn't one I like, and I can all but feel the blood drain from my face. Was it my fault, somehow? Did me choosing the academy make him feel like he wasn't needed? Or was it something before that?
Anyway, it doesn't matter now,
my brother says suddenly, startling me out of my thoughts.
What's done is done. Not much we can do about it now.
I nod, feeling as helpless as ever. Zane didn't see his choice the same way I did, and I don't know if my opinions changed. I don't necessarily know why he chose to leave, whether it was because he didn't think I could become a summoner, or something we did made him feel useless, but either way, he still made the decision. A part of our family no longer wants to be with us, and even if his reasoning is just to help mom, it still feels like a betrayal. My eyes wander back to Zane, and that's when I notice him fidgeting. He scratches at his arm uncomfortably, looking around nervously and then back at me. I suddenly remember the stranger he was talking to, and I force myself to drop my feelings about Akira. That conversation Zane had with the stranger is more important right now. Their conversation sounded shifty, and I have a nagging feeling Zane won't be forthcoming with the truth. Maybe he was willing to forgive Akira so easily because he was also doing something just as bad. Because he understood. My insides tense up, and for the second time today, I find myself trying to figure out if someone was lying straight to my face.
We should probably get out of here before some Noxians come along looking for trouble,
Zane says, his nonchalant voice somehow betraying the fact he's hiding something.
Sure,
I say slowly, glancing around.
Just one more quick question. Who was that guy you were talking to?
Zane's face goes blank, settling into a neutral expression like that of a statue's. He folds his arms, taking another look around with just his eyes. He thinks the best poker face is one that shows nothing, but it reveals more than he thinks. It must be something serious if he thinks he has to put on his best lying face. There's only one thing he could be involved in that would make him act like this. I hope I'm wrong.
So you saw that, hey?
He asks.
Is he a rebel?
I ask, trying to keep my voice calm. Not all Ionians were content to sit under Noxus rule, and a few have even taken to using violence to fight back. Getting involved in that was a death sentence for anyone caught. Zane's talked about them before, and Akira and I had always been wary of it happening.
No, of course not,
my brother says, and I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding.
He just hired me to make some special pickaxes for him. Some sort of special mining operation or something. Anyway, he promised to pay for mom's treatment in Piltover if I kept it quiet. The mining he's doing is in contested lands, so he doesn't want the competition to know what he's up to.
I want to believe my brother's telling me the truth, but his explanation doesn't match up with everything they said. If Akira could delude himself into thinking abandoning us was really the best idea, Zane could easily have done the same thing about joining rebels. I need to make sure he's not lying to me. If I make a guess at my suspicions, he's sure to reveal something. It was a play out of Akira's book, and maybe fighting fire with fire is the best way to go about this.
So what you're telling me,
I ask, putting all the skepticism I can into my voice,
is that the man you were talking to wasn't part of a rebel group, and the special payment wasn't allowing you to join them?
Yes, he says. His eyes flicker briefly, and he wipes a sweaty hand on his cloak. I don't know how I know, but I know he's lying to me. Even if he's not, he's hiding something, just like everyone else.
It's not too late,
I say, clenching my fists.
Just tell me the truth.
He sighs.
The truth is that I'm protecting you. That's all you need to know. Just trust me, like you always have.
His words hit me hard, and I take a step backwards. This can't be happening. He didn't even try to deny my accusation that time. He's going to get himself killed, and even if he doesn't, he was still breaking the promise. Just like Akira. We knew the Noxian students would try to change us, to bring out our worst. The three of us had made a three-part promise to always look out for each other, to never let them change us, and to never use our power except in self-defense. Those were the things that brought the three of us so close together, the one constant in our lives. The third one part was broken long ago, but the fact that the other two were broken on the same day is just too much. Does the promise mean that little to them? Was I the only one who took it that seriously?
We probably should only meet in private from now on,
Zane continues, oblivious to my distress.
If any of the people from the academy saw me with you, questions could be raised, and I wouldn't want to make you seem vulnerable. They might have someone following you too, and it would be bad if they learned how Mom got off the island. Not to mention I can't have my acquaintances thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah, I say, anger touching my voice.
It's probably best if we don't see each other the rest of the day.
He blinks at the intensity of my tone.
Arya, if you're mad at me. It's fine,
I cut in coldly.
I had some plans with some of the people from the academy anyway.
I turn and stalk away from him, a mixture of sorrow and anger. No tears though. I must have reached my quota for the day. Zane doesn't call out to me, and I don't look back. I'm alone. Akira's gone, and Zane is on the same path, whether he realizes it or not. The only thing keeping me alive from now on, is me. Nothing else. They broke the promise, but I wonder if they realize why. I've figured it out, what the one constant between them is. The one thing that would be powerful enough to make them go back on their word. It's me. They broke the promise because of me. It's at least partly my fault for Mom's sickness, which is why Akira broke the first part. If Mom wasn't sick, he wouldn't have left. Maybe he thinks he's taking the pressure off of me to help her, or trying to relieve the guilt I have too. Knowing him, it's probably a mixture of all of them. The second part was entirely my fault because I was weak, and they made me change. If I had been stronger, the Noxians wouldn't have changed me. That led to Zane breaking the third promise. He used his power against them because of me. He let my change affect him. It's my fault. They always told me it wasn't, but in the end, it was. Maybe that's why I chose the academy. Maybe I instinctively knew this was going to happen, and I was just preparing myself. Everything around me falls apart at the slightest touch, so maybe I thought that surrounding myself with Noxians was a better idea. Or maybe I just feel guilty about. Well, just about everything, really. Whatever the reason, the academy is my last chance. I've already let myself change once, so it won't matter if I do it again. I'll let their cruelty change me. I'll take in everything they throw at me and become stronger. They'll try to break me, but that isn't possible anymore. After all, you can't break what's already broken.